All right, boys and girls, let's continue, please. We are going to page, we're still with Seeds of Change. Let's go to page 286, 287, please, boys and girls. And again, the illustration, we see Wangari, and I see her family surrounding her. The chickens that, remember, she had to shooed the chickens into the shade when it was hot. And that's her family. Her mother, brother, maybe that's the father. Big family. And remember, this is that tree, the Mugumo tree. All right, boys and girls, let's read. Go, her mother said. She picked up a handful of dirt of earth and placed it gently into her daughter's hand. Where you go, we go. Wangari was sad to leave, but she knew that what her mother said was true. Wherever Wangari went, so went her family, her village, and her Kikuyu ways. She kissed her family and said goodbye to the Mugumo tree, remembering her promise always to protect it. Wangari's new life in the city amazed her. Skyscrapers towered above her head, not trees. People rushed through the streets like river water over stones. At school, she lived with other girls like her, all trying to weave their village customs with new city ones. At night, when the girls slept, Wangari dreamed of home and the sweet figs of the Mugumo tree. Her dreams reminded her to honor her Kikuyu tradition of respecting all living things. Okay, boys and girls, let's discuss what we read, please. So her mother said she must go. Remember in the previous page, boys and girls, Wangari was feeling scared about going, but her mother told her to go, and she picked up a handful of dirt. It says earth, but it's dirt, and that's what she has in her hand right here, the mother. And she told her daughter, where you go, we go. And Wangari agreed that she said that, wherever I go, her family went with her, her village, and her Kikuyu ways. Now, boys and girls, it doesn't really mean that her family and her whole village is actually going with her, but she's just keeping them not just only in her thoughts, but also in her heart. So when she is leaving her family, even though she might no longer be living with them, she's going to be in a different location, different city. She knows that her family and will always be with her in her, not just in her thoughts, but also in her heart. And when she, here in this sentence, we already know that living in the city amazed her. And they talked about skyscrapers. So maybe, boys and girls, the previous picture that we saw about Nairobi, maybe that is what the city looked like. Skyscrapers, boys and girls, big businesses, towered above her head and not trees. And so she thinks about the Mugumo tree. And there's some pictures, boys and girls, of the Mugumo trees. This is the Mugumo tree that she's used to having around in her village, in her home. And she's also, I like this sentence that says, people rush through the streets like river water over stones. Once again, boys and girls, this is a figurative language example, and again has the word like. They're comparing two things. They're comparing people rushing through the streets, and they're comparing it to river water over stones. So again, boys and girls, if they're comparing two things with the word like, what figurative language is being represented here? Give you a second to think. If you said simile, you are correct. This is a simile, boys and girls. We've seen several examples of similes in this story. And again, they're comparing, you're supposed to visualize people rushing through the streets, hurried. They're always in a hurry all over the streets, just like river water pours over stones very quickly. Okay. And we learned that the school that she's attending is just for girls. And all these girls are coming from different villages. And I like the sentence that says, all these girls all trying to weave their village customs with new city ones. And village customs, boys and girls, customs, it means is defined as a cultural idea that describes a regular pattern behavior that is considered characteristic of life in a social system, like shaking hands, bowing, kissing, hugging, is methods of greeting one another. So a custom is what someone does in the way they live in their home based on how they were raised. And so all these girls that come from different villages, they want to continue the customs that they had growing up in from their villages and bring it to the big city of Nairobi. And at night, the girls are dreaming about home. And boys and girls, how do you think the girls are feeling then if at night they dream about their home? Okay, can you think of what that word means, boys and girls, if you dream about your home at night and you're not living, if you're away from home? Give you a second to think. And if you thought of the word they're feeling homesick, well, that's exactly what I'm talking about, boys and girls. All these girls were homesick. They were missing their home. And her dreams reminded her to honor her Kikuyu tradition of respecting all living things. So remember, boys and girls, she grew up with the mugumo tree. Remember in the beginning, she realized that the mugumo tree provided shelter and food for all living, for the other animals. And so that is what she was taught growing up. And she was taught to respect all living things. And that is the tradition she wants to continue even in the big city. Okay, boys and girls. For today, we come to an end and we will continue with the story in just a bit. Thank you, boys and girls.